Hello, I'm Christine Nixon. This is part of a series of videos we're producing as part of my new website, christinenixon.com.au. Last time round, we talked about two key issues. One was about respecting the people you work with and how that's an important part of bringing about change. And the second was around the limits that we often have when we're trying to bring about change. Limits about people and limits about organisations. This video, we're going to talk about goals and about having a focus. I think it's a really, really interesting issue, and you might say, well, goals pretty easy, pretty obvious. What I've found is that when I've worked with big organisations and with individuals, that often not having a focus, not having clear goals is often what's holding them back. I remember some years ago, I went to the FINA World Swimming Championships, and it was held in Victoria when I was the Chief Commissioner. And we'd done the security for those championships, and I was invited to come to the opening ceremony. And I thought this would be very exciting, and off we went. And it was an interesting occasion. And part of the ceremony was the swimmers came into the pool and with their flags, and they walked around the pool with the flags, and they played the national anthem. And it kind of went on and on and on. And I got a bit tired after a while of watching all of these countries come in. And I started to watch the floats in the pool, because what they were doing was they had a flag, but they also had a float, and the float was for each country that was involved. And so they would come in and put their floats in the water. And so the floats, of course, did what floats do. They kind of, bobbed along. And they went back and forwards in the pool. And it was kind of interesting to watch. And then but it sort of struck me, because I thought to myself, it's very interesting about what floats are and whether you can think about sort of similar ways to people and to organisations. I guess part of what often I see is that organisations and people kind of bob along. They just float. And wherever the tide takes them, wherever a new sort of direction or something else, they just go with the flow. And I've watched that, and you might say, well, how can that be with big organisations? And I've seen it. I remember going into Victoria Police, or even earlier, when I came back from being at Harvard University in 1986 and looked at the New South Wales Police. And they too were kind of not really clear about what they were trying to achieve. And so if you set a process in motion to listen to people in the organisation, to look at the evidence, to look at the kind of what's the best way for us to go forward, and for you individually, what's good for me? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I really want to do with myself? Then you start to build and bring that plan together, and you start to think about what the goals might be. When I went to Victoria Police, it was the same sort of thing. First of all, we obviously had to kind of overcome our limits and get people involved. But the next piece is, so what are we here for? Telstra has a great piece of research they did back in the 90s, and it was about saying to people, what do you want from your bosses? And what they said was, we want someone in the organisation to know where we're going. I want to know what my piece is, and I want then someone to help me do it. So we're all looking for that kind of direction. So coming into Victoria Police, same sort of model. And then we said to the government, we're going to reduce crime by 20% overall over the next 5 years. If you support us, then these are the goals. And those goals started to flow through with the organisation. And it was an important part of first of all saying, in our plan, the way forward, these are the goals. This is what we're all going to look to achieve. I did some work the other day with a really interesting community organisation, and they came up with 4 key goals. And instantly they said, okay, we know now what we have to stop doing, and now we know what it is we're going to focus on, and that's an important part. So what about individuals? What about you? What about the kind of your own life? Is that really a piece of are you clear about what you're going and where you're going to? I have a young niece, and I said to her at one stage, you're 18, you're finishing school, what are your goals in life? And people often laugh and say, oh yes, as if an 18-year-old would think about it. Well, she did. She wanted to go and become an event planner, she wanted to lose weight, she wanted to get healthier. Well, you might be shocked to know, when I went to see her about 8 weeks after we'd had this discussion, I said, where's your plan? She said, well, I've got it. And I said, good, can I see it? And she said, no, but I've got a plan. Well, you might be surprised to know, yes, she had a plan, okay, and she has done all of those things. She now finished a degree in events planning, and she's much healthier, much fitter, and much happier. So think about your goals. They may be just a list that you write down that says, okay, what's really important to me? Or maybe you might be a lot more organised. and actually say, what do I want to be doing in 6 months' time? What do I want in 12 months? What's 18 months? And gradually you start to bring things into line. And you say, well, what happened to Victoria Police? Did those goals really make a difference? You bet they did. They made an enormous difference. They made a difference for the community and for the government and business who could all get behind us and say, yep, this is what we want to do. These are the ways we want to go forward. Think about your organisation. What's its goals? What you're trying to achieve? And as an individual, what about you? What's your goals? Are you just going to bob along like the floats do? Just go with the tide, and in 10 years' time, you look about and you say, what have I done? Where have I gone? Or are you going to be someone that says, I need to go get that piece of study. I need to get healthier. I need to change jobs. What is it that you're trying to do? And what are your goals? Trust me, it'll make an enormous difference if you set goals for your organisation and you as an individual.